Good morning. Here at the Alliance for Better Contextual Behavioral Science, research has been proceeding to develop a new generation of contextual behavioral technologies, establishing unprecedented standards of psychological flexibility, functional precision, and recursively derived scientific excellence. Our primary focus has remained the development of interventions that are not only functionally contextual, but are themselves capable of analyzing the functional contextual processes by which functional contextual analyses are generated. Work has therefore been proceeding on the crudely conceived idea of an experimental apparatus that would not only facilitate arbitrarily applicable derived relational responding under appropriately specified contextual control, but would also automatically derive novel relational frames regarding its own relational framing while simultaneously transforming the stimulus functions of those derivations throughout the research process. The result is the association's latest recursive relational encabulator. Now, basically, the only new principle involved is that instead of behavior being analyzed according to its topographical characteristics, it is specified entirely through the recursively contextualized transformation of mutually and combinatorially entailed stimulus functions operating within arbitrarily applicable coherence networks. The original prototype consisted simply of 6 multiple exemplar calibration manifolds mounted upon a deictically stabilized self-as-context assembly, allowing all contextual cues to remain functionally interchangeable throughout repeated recursive observation cycles. Unfortunately, early prototypes demonstrated considerable observer wobble, together with intermittent mutual entailment leakage and occasional combinatorial side framing, whenever researchers attempted to observe themselves observing their own observational behavior in real time. These effects were particularly pronounced during extended deictic calibration procedures. Accordingly, the present investigation focused upon the deictic framing of researchers as they deictically framed themselves, deictically framing their own deictic framing throughout the experimental protocol. Special attention was given to determining whether the observing self could successfully observe itself observing itself while simultaneously observing the observational behavior generated by observing that observation, without introducing observational contamination into the observed observational repertoire. Initial findings were encouraging. Although observation of the observer reliably altered the observing behavior of the observer being observed, installation of the revised self-as-context stabilization module virtually eliminated observer wobble under conventionally specified contextual conditions. The principal relational winding now consists of a standard, arbitrarily applicable combinatorial entailment lattice positioned within pan-contextual coherence bearings, every 7th relational response being connected by a non-reversible deictic conduit to the differential psychological flexibility regulator situated at the upper end of the values consistency manifold. Moreover, whenever excessive experiential avoidance oscillation is detected, the system automatically initiates recursive transformation of the stimulus functions governing avoidance of transforming the stimulus functions governing avoidance, substantially reducing unnecessary essentialism without measurably affecting statistical significance. The latest generation apparatus is additionally capable of deriving novel relational frames concerning the derivation of previously derived relational frames, before those frames have functionally participated in the derivation of the relations required for their subsequent derivation. This feature has proven especially valuable in the functional analysis of earlier functional analyses whose functions were themselves determined to function primarily as functional analyses. Independent replication has now confirmed that contextual coherence remains remarkably coherent, provided coherence continues to function coherently within the contextual parameters specifying contextual coherence. Reviewers describe these findings as conceptually dense, although several subsequently acknowledged that the reinforcing properties of the manuscript increased significantly following repeated exposure. The recursive relational encabulator has now reached a high level of contextual precision and is being successfully employed in the behavioral analysis of researchers behaviorally analyzing researchers conducting behavioral analyses of previous behavioral analyses. The association is therefore pleased to report that, although no topographical improvements were directly observed, substantial improvements were functionally observed regarding the observation of those improvements by observers appropriately trained to observe them. Thank you.